And Then There Were None, is a mystery novel by the English writer Agatha Christie, who described it as the most difficult of her books to write. It was first published in the United Kingdom by the Collins Crime Club on the 6th of November 1939 as 10 Little after an 1869 minstrel song which serves as a major plot element. The U.S. edition was released in January 1940 with the title And Then There Were None, taken from the last 5 words of the song. Successive American reprints and adaptations use that title, though American pocketbooks paperbacks used the title 10 Little Indians between 1964 and 1986. UK editions continued to use the original title until 1985. The book is the world's best-selling mystery, and with over 100 million copies sold is one of the best-selling books of all time. The novel has been listed as the 6th best-selling title, any language including reference works. Principal characters: Anthony James Marston, Tony Marston, an immoral and irresponsible young man. Thomas Rogers, the butler and Ethel Rogers' husband. Ethel Rogers, the cook housekeeper and Thomas Rogers' wife. General John Gordon MacArthur, a retired World War I general. Emily Caroline Brent, an elderly, pious spinster. Edward George Armstrong, a Harley Street doctor. William Henry Bloor, a former police inspector, now a private investigator. Philip Lombard, a soldier of fortune. Vera Elizabeth Claythorne, a young woman on leave from her position as a sports mistress at a girls' school. Lawrence John Wargrave, Mr. Justice Wargrave, a retired criminal judge. Isaac Morris, a sleazy lawyer and drug trafficker. Plot: 8 people arrive on a small, isolated island off the Devon coast, each having received an unexpected personal invitation. They are met by the butler and cook housekeeper, Thomas and Ethel Rogers, who explain that their hosts, Ulick Norman Owen and Una Nancy Owen, have not yet arrived, though they have left instructions. A framed copy of an old rhyme hangs in every guest's room, and on the dining room table sit 10 figurines. After supper, a phonograph record is played. The recording accuses each visitor and Mr. and Mrs. Rogers of having committed murder, then asks if any of the prisoners at the bar wishes to offer a defense. The guests discover that none of them know the Owens, and Mr. Justice Wargrave suggests that the name U.N. Owen is a play on unknown. Marston finishes his drink and promptly dies of cyanide poisoning. Dr. Armstrong confirms that there was no cyanide in the other drinks and says that Marston must have dosed himself. The next morning, Mrs. Rogers is found dead in her bed. Suspecting that U.N. Owen may be systematically murdering them, 3 of the guests search the island, but find no hiding places. After General MacArthur dies from a heavy blow to the head, it is concluded that one of the 7 remaining persons must be the killer. The next morning, Mr. Rogers is found dead at the woodpile, and Emily Brent is found dead in the drawing room, having been injected with potassium cyanide. The manner of deaths appear to correspond with the rhyme, with one of the figurines being removed for each successive death. Wargrave suggests searching the rooms, and Lombard's gun is found to be missing. Vera Claythorne goes up to her room and screams when she finds seaweed hanging from the ceiling. Most of the remaining guests rush upstairs. When they return, they find Wargrave still downstairs in his chair, crudely dressed in the attire of a judge. Dr. Armstrong pronounces him dead from a gunshot wound to the forehead. That night, Lombard's gun is returned, and Bloor sees someone leaving the house. Armstrong is absent from his room. Lombard and Bloor search the island and the house, but do not find Armstrong. The next morning, Vera, Bloor, and Lombard decide to stick together and leave the house. When Bloor returns for food, he is killed by a marble clock shaped like a bear that is pushed from Vera's windowsill. Vera and Lombard find Armstrong's body washed up on the beach, and each concludes the other must be responsible. Vera suggests moving the body from the shore as a mark of respect, but this is a pretext to acquire Lombard's gun. When Lombard lunges for it, she shoots him dead. Vera returns to the house in a shaken, post-traumatic state. She finds a noose and chair arranged in her room. Overcome by guilt, she hangs herself in accordance with the last line of the rhyme. Scotland Yard officials arrive on the island to find nobody alive. They discover that a sleazy lawyer and drug trafficker called Isaac Morris had arranged the invitations and ordered the recording. However, he had died of a barbiturate overdose on the night the guests arrived. The police reconstruct the deaths with the help of the victims' diaries and a coroner's report. They are able to eliminate several suspects due to the circumstances of their deaths and items being moved afterward, but ultimately, they cannot identify the killer. Much later, a trawler hauls up in its nets a bottle containing a written confession. In it, Mr. Justice Wargrave recounts that all his life he had had two contradictory impulses, a strong sense of justice and a savage bloodlust. He had satisfied both through his profession as a criminal judge, sentencing murderers to death following their trial. After receiving a diagnosis of a terminal illness, he had decided on a private scheme to deal with a group of people he considered to have escaped justice. To set up his scheme, Wargrave had employed an agent, Morris, to purchase the island and to make the necessary arrangements, before killing him with a lethal dose of barbiturates. Posing as one of the guests, he had, with Dr. Armstrong's naive assistance, faked his own death by gunshot on the pretext that it would help the group identify the killer. After disposing of Armstrong and the remaining guests and moving objects to confuse the police, he finally committed suicide by shooting himself in the head, using the gun and some elastic to ensure that his true death matched the account of his staged death recorded in the guests' diaries. Wargrave had written his confession and thrown it into the sea in a bottle in response to what he acknowledged to be his pitiful human need for recognition.